What's going on, everyone? It is Thursday around lunchtime. Maybe not for Cynthia. It is for me, though. And we are back for the Analytics Say. Incredible weekend of football. Upcoming is the Pro Bowl. Then we got the Super Bowl. But most importantly, Cynthia, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually in Las Vegas for the East West Shrine Bowl, which is pretty cool because I love the draft is by far and away like my favorite thing about the NFL. So these drafts, and especially the East West Shrine, like this is the guys that round out the back half of your roster. They're not necessarily the Senior Bowl that's down in Mobile.
Yeah.
Typically gets a lot of like the guys who are like first and second rounders. So we're getting to see some of the guys who like really, and they're really sweet and they really want to make it. And I'm starting to feel really maternal because I could be their mother now, but would have been like a little bit of a questionable teenager. But at the end of the day, it's been really neat to like get to know some of these kids and see like the ones who really want a shot. It's really great.
Are you staying out for the Pro Bowl? When are you leaving?
I'm leaving tomorrow. Thank God.
Very
I did the reverse Vegas trip. I got here on Sunday and I'm leaving on Friday, which is crazy. And I might as well be in like, Okemos, Michigan. That's where I'm from, because we're on like the other side of the track from the strip. So it is wild out here.
That's good. You cannot spend that long in Vegas if you were doing Vegas the traditional way. So stay away. But more importantly, do you see anyone who may be potential for our FCF team down the line? We're minting ballers today. That's huge. We need everyone to pick up their ballers so we can call plays this season. You seeing some good talent out there?
There's a guy out of Nebraska named Samori Torre. He is a transfer from Missouri, or not Missouri, from Montana, my favorite state. And this kid is a deep threat, great speed. He doesn't have like top end speed, but he has like really nice speed. I think he'll get a chance on an NFL roster. He could be part of the fall season because he's got he creates so much separation on deep passes. It's great. He's got the twitch, and also he's like super fun. So I'm a big fan of him. There's also a kid out of Lenore Ryan, which is a very small school. He's kind of unpolished. I have yet to see him smile, which makes him very knightly. Like he's all business. Like he is really, really interesting. But maybe a bit raw for an NFL roster. So he's the kind of guy who could be on our team and then maybe make it to the NFL. Use this as a stepping stone to get to the NFL, which would be pretty cool. So there's a lot of talent here. The fastest guy so far, because we have stat trackers on everything, is actually a defensive back out of Boston College. His name's Brandon Sebastian. I went to BC, so got to give a little love there. I don't know if he'll get. He could get a look. He plays corner. He has some experience playing safety as well. But he's like the kind of kid who would be really great for those one-on-one situations. He's great.
Yeah. I don't think other FCF teams have professional scouts out in Vegas right now. I don't think they have Giga going down to Orlando.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from the rest. So I'm excited to mint some ballers later today. I'm also excited our floor price is at a healthy almost 0.7, so that's exciting. But most importantly, Joe Burrow is in the Super Bowl, and I think the entire world is enamored with this man. Let's start with Cincy against Kansas City. I just need an explanation, Cynthia. How does Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense go from unstoppable to incompetent in a 15-minute halftime period?
I mean, that's the worst quarterback rating Patrick Mahomes has had in a half of football. Like, that's ridiculous. There's a couple things that happened in that game. When I look back at the math, and I wouldn't say this on NFL Network because it's some conjecture, but I look to see the decline. Like maybe he was sick, maybe something happened. Because it was not like he had such counter, like all of the traits, all of the math. And when you looked at the film and you watched it, he didn't look well. Like perhaps he, maybe he had didn't feel good prior to the game because it felt like you were not seeing the same guy. Like even his speed eroded. These are very uncharacteristic things of Patrick Mahomes. It's not to say that that the Bengals, I'm not saying taking anything away from the amazing situation and the comeback that they mounted, but it's strange to see a player of that caliber have that kind of erosion. And I wouldn't be surprised if later it comes out like the Jordan flu game, right? Like where you hear oh yeah, the flu, something. I wouldn't be surprised, if that happened. And again, that's conjecture and I'm not reporting anything. It's not, I don't know, but it just seems like you don't ever see those stats from Mahomes.
Right. Especially when he was performing so well and his numbers are already off the charts and then they're off the charts in the other direction. It's so confusing for someone who's all in the numbers. So that is wild to hear. And it wouldn't shock me. There were moments late in that game where it was like, is he okay? Is he seeing things that he would normally see? I thought even when they ended up kicking the field goal to push it to overtime, he had Kelsey in the end zone a couple times. He had Hardman, maybe McKinnon, and he just was running around backwards. I don't know. He was kind of dancing back there. So that was crazy. But like you said, let's not knock what Cynthia's pulled off, obviously, by getting there. But I want to know what your numbers are saying in terms of Joe Burrow, because second-year quarterback, first time a number one pick has taken his team this far, this early on in his career. And obviously he's now putting category of, I want Burrow over Josh Allen. You mean the guy who just absolutely lit up the playoffs? I want Joe Burrow over Herbert. I want Burrow over Lamar, over Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's now, recency bias is real in the sports media world. But the guy has 4 touchdown passes. So tell me, is his performance better and he's just not throwing those final passes? Or is the hype going with the QB wins, which aren't necessarily an indicator of quarterback play?
No. I think we're all really lucky, like especially with Tom Brady retiring, we're really lucky that the next generation of quarterbacks is really strong, right? So all of those people you named, come on, you really gonna do that? No. Just relax. So it's interesting to me, all these narratives, and of course they get thrown up, whatever. It's part of the fun of sports media. But at the end of the day, it's funny about Joe Burrow, and part of the reason why I think that the Bengals defense was able to pull off what they pulled off was because he actually profiles a lot like Patrick Mahomes, which is funny because coming out of college, I wouldn't have made that comparison between the two of them. But they actually, the way that they're able to just absolutely annihilate any sort of single high safety look, don't do it. Don't do it. You're an idiot. You're an idiot if you try to do that. It doesn't work, right? And that's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Try blitzing Joe Burrow. Okay, same thing. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. They actually have these strange similarities. The throws on the run, Patrick Mahomes is better, and Josh Allen is actually profiles like Mahomes in those regards. But in terms of the construction of the type of offense that works, that's where the numbers really show. Joe Burrow really he has a Mahomes ability to diagnose certain looks that defenses put out and just totally beat them. And Joe Burrow, by the way, intermediate passes are the ones that are so incredibly powerful. He's the best since week 7 in intermediate passing. That part reflects that Jamar Chase has been so epically good, and then T. Higgins also really good, and then CJ Uzomah being out, that's a big loss in the middle of the field for them. But I do think that means there's space for a Tyler Boyd to be more impactful. And of course, then Joe Mixon, of course, in the short passing game has been, this past game, it didn't work out so much, but in general, it has been pretty great.
Yeah, they have shocked the world, and I cannot wait for the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. So over the next, whatever it is, I think we got 10 or 11 days till the Super Bowl.
10 days.
10 days. Double-digit days, barely. What will you be studying to get you fully ready to feel good about your preparation for that game?
So the Rams defense showed me something interesting. So I've been pretty hard on, Raheem Morris hates analytics. So I always talk about how he can't adapt in second halves because it's true. The numbers bear it out. But he did actually in this last one. So interestingly enough, they broke a bunch of their tendencies in order to beat the 49ers. They, look, Aaron Donald is always a problem. Jalen Ramsey is always a problem. Von Miller, also always a problem. So it's not that they didn't use these guys, whatever, before, and then suddenly they're using their best players. It's more about overcoming some situations that they have. They're missing Taylor Rapp, one of their starting safeties. Their linebacker level is the most targetable area of the field for them. The other corner, not named Jalen Ramsey, any of them, that can be a problem too. So what they did was they broke with their tendencies in terms of they were showing leverages, false leverages ahead of the play, which is, sometimes you can get an opposing running back on like a run heavy scheme like the 49ers have, the running back can kind of telegraph if, they can actually mess up the quarterback. Like they can run the wrong way or do something that, and the false leverages can get the quarterback tricked. So they were doing a lot of things that weren't their normal tendencies. And that had a really big impact on this game. And those false leverages are really, they're hard to overcome if you had not put them on tape before, and they hadn't. So they were doing things in different ways and different types of blitzes and different types of scheme work that it worked. And so I have to give, listen, he showed up. I think that he started using analytics, but obviously that's conjecture.
So the eye test, and I'm sure some numbers will show that the Rams are probably the better team in this matchup. Everyone talks about the D line against that O line is a great matchup. Ramsey obviously can neutralize the best receiver on any field. Matt Stafford's been spectacular. The Rams running game and their balance is awesome. And McVay has the Super Bowl experience. Cynthia has been the worst team in every matchup. It hasn't stopped them. But are the numbers showing this matchup is actually closer than people predict, or are people underrating how much better the Rams actually are?
I mean, across the street or across the highway, remember I'm the wrong side of the highway here. I think that the number's 3.5. And that's an interesting opening line. Remember, well, I don't know what it opened, but at least what it is right now. That's interesting for a number of reasons, in part because that hook is crazy. But, I think that there's a lot of, remember, the Vegas has to factor in volume. So you have to back, like, because they want to make money, right? The book always wins. The house always wins. It's interesting. And there's something for me, and I've done a little bit of early like note taking on where obviously I haven't gone through the entire thing, and the injury report is the most important thing that is going to come out. But their O-line hasn't been good all year. What they have done really well, look, their offense like speaks for itself. The Bengals, like we've seen it, we get it, right? And they're, even with their O-line being garbage, the offense speaks for itself. And what isn't as easy, and something I spent a little extra time on, is like I want to create a different metric. Like we always talk about, like, oh, the front of the defense and the back of the defense work together. So I've been working on a coverage metric that doesn't reflect one or the other, because it really is a matter of them working together. You actually saw the Bengals really pull this off against Patrick Mahomes. Everyone was covered. They were rushing 3. They dropped everyone else into coverage. 3, like that's ridiculous. Long story short, that metric of figuring out the balance between forcing someone to hold on to the ball long enough, no one's open, you really got everyone covered, and the pressure up front, because Trey Hendrickson then was like kapow, like it works out with just 3. So point being, I'm trying to like reflect that, like the balance of the front and the back of the defense. I got it totally wrong ahead of the season. I take a lot of credit. I thought Trey Hendrickson was like no different than Carl Lawson. I thought he profiled very similarly to him in terms of skill set, and I thought that the output would be similar. I didn't recognize how well some of the guys they brought in, Mike Hilton, great, along with Jesse Bates, along with the Chidobe Awuzie, like coming in. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be much different than the guys they lost, right? Like, I don't see how this is going to be. And then Logan Wilson, obviously, but it is the way they work together has been very different. You can see Sam Hubbard get in the mix, and he's not known as like the strongest pass rusher in the entire league, but Trey Hendrickson led the league in individual pressure rate. That's a big deal. So point being, that coverage metric really does matter. Lou Amorano, whose name I can barely say, hats off. He crushed it.
It's been amazing. I think both coaching staffs have done an incredible job. Like you said, we know about that Cincy offense, but that Cincy offense shouldn't be able to operate like that with the O-line, and they've figured out quick passing. Mixon's had an incredible season behind what people are saying is a bad offensive line. So scheme is definitely come into play. Do you know which side you're going to be a believer in by the time we get to game time next Sunday?
I would be very shocked based on like my stuff really. I like, people have accused me of being a Rams hater, and I'm not. My stuff doesn't like a team that is so shallow, meaning they've got a really nice, their starters are nice, right? Like they've got ridiculous starters, but then the depth and the rotational depth, they don't got it. They, that's the way that their roster is constructed. My stuff doesn't like that. My stuff often reflects, because the way teams that like in the model I use, the one I created it, about 8 years is the sweet spot. I've looked at it for more longer periods of time, but the league really 8 years reflects like how new play calls or the evolution of the game and the chess match that we're watching. And my stuff doesn't like that. What has been a proven concept to win has been more like, do you have a lot of average players that can play above average in your scheme? Because at some point, like Aaron Donald goes down for a couple of plays, like Yao does. Like this is a problem, right? Like there's not a lot of, and I say that because then the way that the other pieces of the defense work, like, Aaron Donald commands more double or triple teams than any other person in the league, and it is by a long stretch. So now everyone else is like, what are we gonna do? Now it's a worse opportunity for Von Miller to rush the passer, et cetera, et cetera. How that all fits. So I'm not sure. I would imagine, I think 3.5 is too much. I don't know which side I'll exactly fall on this, because my stuff doesn't like some of the inconsistency for the Bengals either. But I think it's going to be my gut is I probably have somewhere between 1 and 2 points. That's kind of
does your model take into account something like, okay, the Rams are not deep, which projects them over a 17-game season or over a 4-game playoff span to potentially have injuries, because that's a part of the sport. Whereas now we're in one game, and it's the Moneyball theory of you can build all these things, but you can't predict the event of one singular game. Does that play into any of this?
Yeah. Well, one single. So sure. I mean, look, I very much believe so. I think the Bengals are really smart, because this is a good O-line draft class for flavors of O-linemen. You're able to get like a lot of different types. So if they have the right vision, they'll be able to execute, really revamp. Any team will be able to revamp their O-line between a mixture of free agents. And this is an interesting, this draft class for pass rushers and O-linemen actually is, it's, if you know your type, you're gonna be able to find it. Like, I don't know what everyone wants for their type, but you'll be able to find it here. And so it's unsustainable what the Bengals are doing too, right? Both things are unsustainable. So whose sustainability drops first?
Right. Okay, final question in this Rams Cincy game, but really from last week. I saw Odell graded out as the best wide receiver in the NFC Championship, which is interesting because Cooper Kupp had 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns. But how good was Odell? I mean, it's his first 100-yard receiving game in a very long time. He's now, I guess he adds a bit of depth to the wide receiver position. They were pretty focused on, obviously, Kupp throughout the year, and Higbee went down. So how good was Odell in this game?
I don't think he was the best. I think that grade is interesting because you have to factor in, like, they had to account for Cooper Kupp, meaning it drew coverage, and then they found Odell. Like, his explicit numbers don't reflect, I mean, and Cooper Kupp's numbers were ridiculous too. So I watched that coverage, and they had to, he was open because of Cooper Kupp. So I think, I don't know how other people grade. I only know how I grade.
Right.
So when I look to see that, I think really what's happening is kind of what we expected. Odell's one of the best catch and run receivers that we've like ever seen, right? Like since his days at the Giants. So he's going to get extra yards after the catch. Now you're giving him deeper passes, meaning he's getting a full head of steam and then catching it in the right. Like, that's great. Like, that's what they brought him in to do. He's filling up, the expectation cup of what they expected. He's doing it. And it's interesting to me, like, kind of spinning that forward. You could go right now. I happen to look at draft days. I don't know what these things are, but because I work for the NFL. But if there's a thing where you can get a touchdown for Odell Beckham Jr. in the Super Bowl, and it's like there's a plus in front of that, which I'm not sure what that means, but I would take a little hammer and go mash right on that, because a touchdown that's it, and a plus and a touchdown.
And he's been a red zone favorite since his time there, correct?
Why is there a plus there? Dear DraftKings. Sorry, XOXO Cynthia.
I love that. I lied, by the way. I said last thing on the Rams, but I did have one more question that I think is really interesting here that's not being talked about at all. The Rams are playing a home Super Bowl, and we know the Super Bowl, it's $4 bajillion to get in, so it's probably not going to be all Rams fans because the NFC Championship wasn't even all Rams fans. Normally, very standard. You get 3 points to the spread as a home team. I assume if this game was in Cincinnati, it's not, -2.5 for Cincy. I could be wrong, but how much do you think the Rams playing at home factors into this matchup?
So low key, the Rams are the away team.
I did see that.
Why does that matter? Okay, remember, every year, no matter where the Super Bowl is held, it doesn't matter. It alternates AFC, NFC, AFC, NFC.
Oh,
So last year, the Bucks were the home team in their home stadium, but people forget they are low key the away team, which does have a few implications. Coin toss,
yep.
very interesting there. I don't know about home field advantage because the Rams have been playing there without a home field advantage. It is a very noisy stadium. That third down guy needs to zip it. That guy's a lot.
Yeah.
Third down, like that guy. I'm over him. And we can hear it from like our studio.
Yeah, if you haven't been to SoFi yet, people, they have built this stadium as if every decibel of sound filters right down to the field.
It's incredible. So I don't know about like I'm not super worried about that. I think that number reflects a perception that people had ahead of the season, and now they're circling back to it because it was kind of something people talked about way before the season. Oh, we never have second home Super Bowl for blah 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 blah. But remember, like that coin toss could prove very interesting. We've seen it happen before. So,
but would you argue now? I mean, it's heads or tails, right? And now the Rams, in theory, get to control their destiny on the coin flip. My question would be, are they sleeping at home during the week, or are they all in a hotel? Do they have to use the away locker room? I think that is the biggest question.
I asked this question, and the thing is both locker rooms, because like the Chargers have one and the Rams have the other. So it's not like some stadiums where it's like home is great and away is crap. Like, remember in Iowa, have you heard the story? Like the away locker rooms painted pink to like be mentally psyching people out. It's not like that. Both of them are very nice. So I believe it is an NFC. And I have been told, and this is not confirmed, but I have been told that the NFC gets a locker room and the AFC gets a locker room because it's a shared facility. So,
gotcha.
But again, both are very, very nice. There's no bad, like it's not like it's not like a punishment, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, since you're in Vegas, that's where the Pro Bowl's coming. I honestly haven't seen any wagering odds yet, but are there any analytics that you can share that would say don't play in the Pro Bowl? It messes you up like the home run derby, or here's a good betting value.
Look, I mean, you can have fun with any of this stuff. Like, I'm going to tell you, they're staying 40 miles away or 40 minutes away. I don't know if it's miles, but minutes. There's lots of Ubers that can bring people down to the strip. I haven't seen anyone. I don't have anything. Like, I think that like just they're having fun here. I mean, of course you can find something fun in any of it, but it feels to me the return of the Pro Bowl is more about the camaraderie of the players. Like, I don't know. I would find something else to fill your time with because I feel like this is a lot more about fun than it is about anything else.
I totally respect that and will admit you're correct. I wouldn't even say probably. You're definitely correct. But you're also part of the Knights of Degen, so I don't know if they're actually going to listen to you here.
Do what you. I guess my point is like there's no like do it based on your. You know what? Make this one about fun. Do it based on what you like, because the Knights of Degen are very smart, right? We are unbiased with we want alpha. We don't want craziness. Right. So take this weekend, whatever you would spend to go out to dinner or whatever, like find your little role and just make it all fun. Like make it like a super fun, like really like just have fun with it. Like you just bet on all Ravens if you like the Ravens. Bet on all, like who cares? Like Just make it fun for yourself, and then we can get back to the like alpha seeking ways for the Super Bowl, because there's going to be so many fun things next week that we could talk about that are already like, they're already starting to pop off. But like, I'm just saying, like, Pro Bowl stuff,
Yeah.
like, just make it super, super fun. Just have all of the fun with it, because we'll get back to the hard work next week. But
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm so excited to see what your stuff spits out for next
me
Sunday.
too.
That's gonna be amazing. Last question, then we'll get out of here. Does
Yeah.
your model, anything you study, any tape you've seen, have any indication on maybe the length of a national anthem, the color of a Gatorade? I mean, that's the hard hitting stuff that people are gonna come to this show for. So maybe come with some ideas on that as well.
Oh, I love all of that. Like, those things are so much fun. It's going to be interesting because I'm curious, because we can hear my studio is like it's a 9 iron. That's like the joke around the office,
Yeah.
away from the stadium. So we could probably hear practices. So I'm just curious to see, like, I have a stopwatch.
That's the
shit.
alpha that will be leaked just in the Knights of Degen Discord,
Right.
people. So
I own a
get your
stopwatch.
night; it'll pay for yourself. Thank you so much, Cynthia. It is always a pleasure. Thank you to all the Knights and
Yeah.
others for watching the
And I
Analytics
have to tell you,
say.
you gotta watch the East West Shrine Bowl tonight. And by the way, you want to know, because I know you're a Ravens guy. So the number one person who profiles as well, there's two. There's one defensive player and one offensive. So I'm just going to tell you the tight end. His name is Jelani Woods out of UVA. That guy
Okay.
he is like 6'6" or whatever, like brick poop house. He's built like totally great. Caught 44 passes on 70 targets at UVA, and he transferred from Oklahoma State, where he was a blocker before. This kid's really, really, like, that's a Raven right there. And there's Ravens coaches there, so I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he finds his way onto your because Danton Lynn is one of the coaches, and
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe
I love it. I love it.
Action.
I love it. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you to everyone watching, and we'll catch you all next week. Peace.